welcome to part 5 of the series where we're going to speak about everything that you need to know in order to have a successful body recomp. Now, today's episode is going to be on training, and obviously next video will be on cardio. And obviously we've covered these videos already where we spoke about the mindset. And let me just remind you guys that if your mindset is very poor, then forget about the rest because mindset makes up 99% of this entire process. I promise you that for sure. Because if you're not mentally locked in, then chances are you're not going to have a successful body recomp. I'll tell you that for sure. So if you haven't checked this video out, then go check it out. I'd recommend watching this video first before moving on to this video, etc. But other than that, let's get right into the video. So how to actually program training. So the way I would recommend you guys to do this is if you're a beginner, then start as low as possible because if you straight away go to like a 5 day split, then chances are there's a high percentage of a chance that you won't be able to sustain it. You're just going to more likely not stay consistent. Why? Because you just started going to the gym, because the way to stay consistent, I feel like, is to start at the bare minimum and then go way up, which is why I'd recommend guys who are just started going to the gym, they start at the bare minimum and, you know, people who are advanced lifters, intermediates, that's where they can stay consistent whilst training 4 days a week, 5 days a week. Why? Because they already got used to that consistency of training 3 days a week. So if you're a beginner, I'd recommend training 2 to 3 days a week. And I'll show you guys some examples later on how you can do a 2 day, 3 day split. But for 2 day, the only thing you can do really is a full body, simply because you need to be training each muscle group twice a week. So therefore, the only option you have for a 2 day split is a two full body session. One could be full body push focused and another full body pull focused, And then obviously you've got 3 day splits, 4 day splits, 5 day splits. No split is the best split. There is no best split. Like I'm not saying obviously 2 day split is better than a 5 day split. As long as you give yourself at least 2 days of a rest, then that's fine. And the best split is the one that obviously you can stick to. That's the best split. So don't be listening to these people that say like, oh, 5 day split is better than a 2 day split. As long as you're training each muscle group twice a week and you stay consistent with what split you're doing, you will see progress like that, guys. Especially when it comes to losing fat and building muscle at the same time. And then obviously, like I said, you have to train each muscle group twice a week. Well, you can train each muscle group once a week and like, do enough sets. But I feel like training each muscle group twice a week is a more of a practical approach and it's something that's more sustainable. But like I said, if you train each muscle group once a week, you can do that. But as long as you do enough sets per week, which is minimum 6, but I feel like for a beginner, they should go to more towards the upper end of like minimum 10 sets. But if you're someone that lacks time and wants to save time, then 6 sets is the bare minimum. So like you can do, let's say if you do legs once a week, then you can do, 2 sets for this exercise, 2 sets for this exercise, and then 2 sets for this exercise once per day, once per week, sorry. So that's 6 sets to the bare minimum. But I feel like a beginner should go more towards the upper end simply because they've just started going to the gym, so they will be able to handle, doing 3 sets each instead of 2 sets, But let's say if you're an advanced lifter, then yeah, minimum is 6. But yeah, like I said, for a beginner, they can do minimum 6 sets. But I feel like the muscles you're trying to prioritize, you want to work on the most, I feel like you should do more sets on those. So I'd recommend going more to the upper end of like training 10 to 20 sets per week in total per like muscle group, 2 rest days minimum. Obviously, we need to give our body enough rest. I promise you, rest days is as important as training. If not, it's way more important than training because how do you expect yourself to be, building muscle if you don't give your body the muscle recovery that it needs? So, and it needs at least 2 rest days to recover or more, obviously. And there's two different kind of sets. There's one where you do straight sets, and one where you do a top set and a back off set. For beginner, I'd recommend doing just 3 straight sets. And for anyone that's advanced or intermediate, then I'd recommend doing a top set and your back off sets, mainly for the compound movements, at least. But yeah, you can also do straight sets for the isolation ones. But if you want to, you can also do top sets and back off sets. But for now, I'll just recommend doing top set and back off sets for all of your exercises if you're intermediate and advanced lifter. So if you're like someone that's been training for 1 year plus, then you can move towards the top set and the back off set rather than doing straight sets. I really, really do like this type of structured set, top set and back off set. Gives me less fatigue because like after you do a top set, gives your body is very fatigued from that heavier set. So if you do a back off set afterwards, you're gonna give your body like your muscles less fatigue if you just do it like that way, rather than doing top set and doing your heavier set afterwards. It's gonna be much more fatiguing for your muscles, and you're gonna feel like yeah, just fatigued in general if you do it that way. So I'd rather you do like kind of like a back off set where you drop the weight by 20% of your top set, and you do it that way. You do that kind of weight rather than just doing like your rather than going 20%, rather than doing like a 20% increase of your top set for your next set. You know, this is a much better approach, especially for an intermediate and for a advanced lifter. But if you're a beginner training for 1 year or less, then I'd recommend doing 3 straight up sets. Now, in terms of how many sets you need to do for this, if you're an intermediate, I'd recommend doing 1 top set and 2 back off sets. But if you're an advanced lifter, someone you've been training for like 3 years plus, 2.5 years plus, like myself, then I'd recommend doing 1 top set and then 1 back off set, especially on the cut as well. And obviously, if you're an intermediate, you can get away with doing 3 sets with two back off sets and 1 top set. And then obviously there's there's only one way to do 2-day split, like I said, which is a full body pull and a full body push. For 3-day splits, I've given you guys a list of examples of what you can do for your 3-day splits in case if you don't know what to do. You can do an upper, lower, upper, where you train legs once a week only, but you're doing enough sets for the legs, so it's still fine. But I feel like most of you guys would need to train your legs twice a week rather than once a week. So therefore, I'd recommend doing lower twice a week. So if you're going to do lower twice a week, then I'd recommend doing a 4-day split instead of a 3-day split. But if you're someone that really lacks time and finds that 3-day splits works for you way more than 4-day splits, especially if you're someone that's like a busy professional, works a full-time job, then it's fine. You can do an upper lower upper split instead, or you can just do 3 full body or 2 full body with delts and arms. With delts and arms, yeah. If you really need to train your legs twice a week, if you need to, which most of you guys do definitely, then don't do upper lower upper, then just do 2 full body so that you can train your legs twice a week. No, 3 full body, sorry. Or you can just do 2 full body. That way you're training your legs enough by doing it twice a week. If you do 2 full body plus delts and arms rather than just doing 3 full body. But yeah, any split works. Like I said, you can even do 4-day splits, upper, lower, lower, push pull legs, upper. If you can, if you don't really need to train legs once a week, then yeah, you can just do push pull legs, upper, or push pull legs, full body. If you don't really have like a muscle priority for your upper part of your like entire body, your entire like torso, and then you can just do push pull legs, full body rather than, or to be fair, push pull legs, upper, push pull legs, full body kind of the same thing. It's just you're doing legs twice a week. 5-day splits, obviously, you can do either push pull legs, upper lower, training your legs twice a week, or you can do push pull legs, chest back, delts and arms if you don't really need to train your legs twice a week, and you can get away with doing it once a week with enough sets. So let me show you guys an example for each of these splits for the 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, and what you can do. So for a 2-day split, you can do full body A, full body B, where full body You don't have to do it like a push focused or pull focused. As long as you're like giving yourself enough sets per like muscle group, then yeah, you should be fine, guys. And yeah, two full body is 2 days a week is enough to see enough progress. For a beginner, because most likely beginners will be doing 2 day splits rather than advanced. Advanced can do two, but let's say if you're a beginner, then you structure your sets this way, where you give yourself a rep range, and then give yourself like a tempo, where you basically like you go 3 seconds on the negative, give a little pause, and then go 3 seconds up, and then not 3 seconds up, then you go up on the positive, give a little pause, 1, 2, 3, pause up. This won't build you more muscle, but it will just help you create that mind to muscle connection. Just simply helps you with your mind to muscle connection and to help you with your form to, get the form right, you know. But as long as you guys control the negative and you go roughly around like 3 seconds down and you give like a little pause, then you should be fine. But if you're a beginner, I like to give you guys a 3-to-1 tempo just to help give you that mind to muscle connection because what builds you muscle is mechanical tension, not how controlled you are within the negative. That just helps with your mind to muscle connection, like I said. Mechanical tension, where like it's basically where the amount of tension you give with your muscles on that full range of motion. That's kind of like what mechanical tension is, how much tension you give against a muscle in order to give yourself that muscle hypertrophy, you know? So if you're doing three straight sets, then you can just stick to this doing the same rep range with the same weight. Obviously, you can give yourself at least 2 minutes to rest in between, which is enough. Obviously, it doesn't have to be 2 minutes; it can be more. But a very, very good indicator that you are ready to do your next set is look at your heart rate. If your heart rate is going down, then that means you're ready to do your next set. So wait for the heart rate to go down, and then once it goes down, that's when you're ready to do your next set. That's a very good indicator that you're ready to do your next set. So yeah, use that as your like indicator, like I said. And then obviously 3 straight sets, yeah. And feel free to take a screenshot of all of these exercises. Um, Obviously, you need to like pick exercises that target a specific part of the muscle. So, for example, on lat pull down, what's the function of the lats? Elbow to hip. That's the function of the lats. And so therefore, it would make sense to put a neutral grip lat pull down so that since your elbows are going to be to your hips and therefore you're going to be targeting the lats if you do it that way because that's the function of the lats, like I said. And obviously, you want to pick one exercise that targets the upper to mid back, so that your entire back gets, worked. And then you can do this in your second session for the seated chest supported row, where your elbows are flared out, and then you give yourself like a little squeeze at the top, and then obviously control, pause, squeeze. And the function, obviously, for the upper back to mid back is having your elbows flared out around like 90 degrees, you know. That's kind of like the function of the upper back, of the mid back as well. Those two are kind of like enough for the back. But the main thing is you want to pick an exercise that allows you, that's, like enough for you to do per muscle group. That's more than enough, because 2 exercises for the back is more than enough. Obviously, you can do 3 if you can, 4. It doesn't matter what exercise you do because all exercises work. Any program works as long as you're training with a very good enough intensity, with a full range of motion, and with good tempo. That's the 3 things that matter the most, way more than what program you're doing, etc. And if you give yourself minimum 6 sets, then that's more than enough. Like for the back, for example, even though we're only doing 2 exercises, we're doing 3 sets each, and that gives us a total of the back part specifically that we're performing 6 sets, which is the bare minimum. Same goes for the legs and for the chest, for the shoulders. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. Goes with the abs. I should add that I feel like you should put another ab exercise there as well. Sorry, I forgot to add another ab exercise there as well. So you want to be doing ab exercise for those two full body sessions, at least one of them. So yeah, you can do another abdominal crunch in the full body B part of your like day, you know, for that day specifically. And then so that's a 2 day split example. Feel free to take a screenshot of that. And then 3 day split, we've got upper, lower, upper, for example. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. And since you're doing upper, you can start to do more sets. Since you're doing upper twice a week, you can do more sets per muscle group. For example, you can do, you know, 2 chest exercises with 3 sets each. And then for upper 2, you can pick either one of them. You can do maybe an incline machine press, or you can do a pick machine fly again if you want to, or you can do both, up to you. But I feel like you need maximum exercises that targets at least muscle groups. That's kind of like enough, you know. You don't need to do like 10 exercises, 'cause that would just be too much for you, you know. But yeah, you can either pick an incline machine press, or you can do an incline, either an incline dumbbell press or or pec deck machine, or you can do both of this in your upper 2 session. But any program works, guys. Like I said, as long as you're training each muscle group twice a week and you're doing enough sets with the minimum 6 sets for each muscle group per week, that's the bare minimum. And as long as you do that much, then it's fine. And it doesn't matter what exercise you do, as long as you pick an exercise, at least one exercise that targets a specific part of the muscle group. So you do pick one for the lats, one for the upper back and rhomboids, mid back and rhomboids, and then you pick like a chest. For the chest, you pick one for the upper chest, one for the lower chest, lower to mid chest, or like one for the entire chest, which is the pec deck machine fly. So yeah, feel free to take a screenshot of this. And for full this split, well, to be fair, you can do upper lower, upper lower. But this is the split that I ran, and I'm currently running right now for my reverse diet. So feel free to. And obviously, if you have this split, you've got push, pull, legs, chest, and back, shoulders and arms. Feel free to take a screenshot of this as well if you want to do a 5 day split. And then yeah, those are kind of like the examples of the 2 to 5 day splits that you guys can do. And now, so let me show you guys an example of what good form looks like, how you should be training. I'm going to use this one as an example. So you can see I'm controlling the negative as I go up. I'm giving it like a little pause and a little squeeze from the top and bottom. See, I'm really, really controlling it, and I am not moving my thighs pushed against the pad, and my elbows are being pulled very close to my hip. So we're performing the function, which is elbow to hip for the lats, and we are pulling with our elbows, and we are controlling the negative as we go up, doing a 3 second negative on the, giving ourselves 3 seconds on the negative, and we're pulling down we'll bring our elbows to our hip. So that's the function of the lats, like I said, elbow to hip. And you can see this is what we are training it with good intensity. And good indicator that you're training with enough intensity and you're training to failure is if your last rep doesn't take at least 3 to 5 seconds, then that means you're not training with good enough intensity. So use that as your indicator. So yeah, as you can see, let me repeat it one more time for you guys. Controlling it at the top, giving a little pause at the top and a little pause at the bottom, just to, you know, feel that lats working, you know, just to give that squeeze. And my thighs pushed against the pad. So you can see there's a full range of motion, and you know, 3 second tempo, top and bottom, and intensity is there as well, especially from that last rep where it took us at least 3 seconds to bring our elbows to our hips. So that's what intensity looks like, guys. And obviously in the next video we're going to be covering the cardio part for our fat loss phase. That's basically everything that we've covered for the training part. And if you want, like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you want my help to get into 10% body fat, was trying to build muscle, or even do a straight up cut, then click the link down in the description of this video to apply for my one-to-one coaching, and I'll reach back to you. If not, then the fact that you watch this video is good enough for me. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you on the next video.